You're putting me on really on the spot here.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit. Remind me, who is your audience?
Like Gen Xers looking to put more meaning in their life.
Perfect.
Right? Okay, so remember that thing I just told you about? Whenever you're ready, let's do that thing.
Oh my God.
Are you a little nervous? Did I put you on the spot? Take a deep breath, and I apologize for putting you on the spot. Okay, there you go. All right.
Okay, what I need to remember is,
you say your name. Yep, go ahead.
Vroom, Vroom, Veer. That's
the name of the show, right?
I know. That's the name. So, hey, this is Misha Rubin from the Career Leap, and I'm here with Jeffrey Smith from Vroom, Vroom, Veer podcast, and we are welcoming you. Is that good?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Adam Vosding, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
So you are officially the traveling food dude out on the socials. So you're mostly on Instagram, but other places. But talk a little bit about what you're doing right now, because it looks pretty awesome.
That's a very good question. And I still think 5 years later, after coming up with that quirky little name, I still think I'm trying to figure it out. But the one thing that I do know is that I don't necessarily miss my corporate job. So back in 2018, I had a friend of mine. She wanted to do a course on how to create, to do a website and all that kind of stuff. So she had reached out to her peers on social media, and it caught my interest. So I sat down with her for a little bit, and she showed me how to set up a website and set up all the social media channels and stuff like that. And she was like, you got to pick a name that's descriptive, short, and kind of fun or whatever. So through a few different iterations, it boiled down to Traveling Food Dude. And for any Canadians or Europeans out there that's traveling with just one L, that was one of the things in the back of my mind. I didn't want to pick a word that could be spelled differently, but it's the American way, Traveling Food Dude. It was kind of quirky. The website was available. Social media handles were available. So she planted this seed to kind of just go out and explore. I had been in a corporate job for quite a while in commercial real estate and had the itch to start traveling. So Melissa, shout out to you for planting the seed. Like I said, that was back in.
I think the name works. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know. You could probably add more insight as to whether or not it works for you, but I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I'm not a lot of people think I'm like at one time I started my journey with a little Airstream travel trailer, and it had the branding logos put on the side of the Airstream. So a lot of people thought I was an actual food truck. So they'd come up like asking what I was selling.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit problematic, but it was a good conversation starter.
Sure. Yeah. I don't have any food. So where, as we can I want to sort of express how cool where you are is right now. Because you are literally doing the Traveling Food Dude as we speak. So just talk about where you're recording this podcast call from.
So I am in the booming town of Parshall, Colorado.
Parshall.
Probably a lot of people that live in Colorado have never heard of Parshall. It's essentially on the west side of Rocky Mountain National Park. I say it's in between Winter Park and Steamboat. Those are the two big ski resorts. So it's on the north side of I-70.
Okay.
And I'm on a dude ranch of all things. I didn't even know dude ranches existed.
Well, you are a dude now. You're officially a dude.
I know. So it's fitting, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's funny. In my childhood, I remember watching the Nickelodeon show, Hey Dude. I had actually just moved from Canada down to Florida. And that was one of the shows that I got into when I moved down to the States, because we didn't have Nickelodeon. In Canada, and I don't know. So maybe there's this thing of like, that was my first exposure to a dude ranch. And then I think after that show, I'd never heard of him again.
Okay.
And a few years ago, maybe we'll get into it later. A few years ago, didn't want to go back to the corporate world. So I was looking out for an opportunity to keep my travels going and found a job at a dude ranch. And so this is going to be my 4th summer here.
Oh, wow.
So I'm super excited to be here. I was just saying earlier, there's literally horses on the other side. I'm in a little cabin that they provide for me for the summer. And there's literally, they have about 100 horses here on the ranch.
Okay.
And there's 3 of them just a few feet from me right now. So it's a pretty unique environment here.
So, and your job there is you're working in the kitchen as a cook?
Yep. So there's 3 of us that provide all the meals. It's basically, I'd say that the dude ranch experience, people, I kind of relate it to a cruise. The guests arrive on a Sunday and they leave Saturday. So we have week-long stays of 40 to 50 guests, kids and adults. And they primarily come here to ride horses. But there's a lot of other Western activities out here. And then obviously eating is very important to them too. So it's all inclusive kind of stay. So all their meals are provided. So we provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks throughout the day. So it's a fun little operation. There's 3 of us back there in the kitchen, and we all kind of have a little bit of different background as far as culinary ideas and stuff like that.
Wow.
We have a very good flexibility and freedom to be creative and try different things. So it's a pretty unique experience. We're in preseason right now, and we just finished. So we're doing staff meals. Everybody that works here gets free meals.
Nice.
In addition to feeding the guests, we do staff meals, and they pretty much eat what the guests eat. But preseason, we just finished a staff breakfast,
right?
And after this interview, I'll go back in and we'll do lunch, and then I'll go back in and get a little break, and then we'll go back in and do dinner.
Okay, so you're kind of working out the menu for the season.
Yep, exactly. Trying new ideas. There's some staples that people expect and like, and then each year we try to incorporate some new things too to keep it a little different.
Yeah, I would imagine breakfast is pretty standard, right?
Yes. And we typically try to offer, it's the standard pancakes, bacon, eggs, French toast, oatmeal,
sure. Yeah.
fruit, and then we try to incorporate
because,
one.
Yeah.
They got the guests, they got a busy day ahead of them, so we definitely need to get them started off on the right foot.
Yeah, but I just got up early to do this podcast. It takes my brain at least 2 hours to boot up. So, my creative juices take at least 2 hours to start flowing. So yeah, I would imagine things get more creative for lunch and dinner. Okay, so this is Vroom Vroom Veer. So that means that we have to go back in time and talk about you before you became traveling food dude, which I just love saying. And it sounds like you're having a blast and have a great summer job there. So where did you grow up? You grew up in Canada, you said.
So yeah, I was born in London, Ontario, Canada, which is essentially between Detroit, Michigan, and Toronto, Ontario. 2 hours either way. For the sports people out there, I was a Red Wings fan growing up for hockey and Blue Jays fan growing up for baseball.
Okay. Divided loyalties. Oh, no. It's okay. We did that too, so I get it.
Yeah, Vegas is getting a lot of
Well, I grew up in Michigan, but we were right on the Michigan-Wisconsin border. So, my dad liked most of the Wisconsin teams. So everybody where I grew up in Michigan, we were Green Bay Packer fans. Nobody got into hockey. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was just all too far away. But my dad liked Detroit for baseball and Milwaukee for basketball. So it's you never really know.
It's funny when you get into how many teams there are in that close proximity up in that part of the country.
Yeah.
Sometimes you root for a team just because your friend roots. Because I think most of my friends were Maple Leafs fans growing up. So
right.
So I need to root for the Red Wings and be different a little bit, just to
there
go
you go.
against the grain.
Yeah. Go ahead. So I interrupted. You were talking about growing up and you divided loyalties. Go ahead.
but my loyalty's changed again. In middle school, my 7th grade, it's funny you say 7th grade in the States and grade 7 in Canada. So it's either grade 7 or 7th grade. I moved down to Florida. My parents won a green card lottery drawing per se. Yeah. So that was our entryway to moving down to the States. I got my citizenship shortly thereafter, or a few years after.
Oh, good for you.
Now I'm a dual citizen. But moved down basically between Sarasota and Tampa.
Nice spot.
When I got into high school, basically just a year later, I was 14, and my parents had the idea in their mind that I either needed to start cutting the lawn all the time or go get a job. And I knew they weren't going to pay me to cut the lawn, so I literally walked down to the grocery store down the road, because I had caught wind that back in the time you could start working there when you were 14.
Yep.
So my freshman year of high school, I started working for Publix, which is a pretty big grocery store chain in the Southeast.
Yep.
Started with them when I was 14.
Wow, 14.
Transferred up. So I did 4 years with them in high school, and then transferred up to a Publix in Gainesville, where I went to University of Florida. Got a degree in economics and education from the University of Florida. During my college days, I don't know how I graduated because I feel like I never actually went to class, but I did get my degree. But I had three jobs, and then I managed to pretty much go to all the football games and some social events on the weekends. So,
wow, okay.
Worked at Publix, and then I worked at a barbecue restaurant and an oyster bar, of all things, in Gainesville.
Yeah,
back in
great in
the
Florida.
The late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
The fun time. And then after graduating, I got into the corporate Publix environment, and then eventually got into their real estate department, where I started traveling through the Southeast and was partially responsible for scouting locations for new stores. That was great for me because I got to expense my lunches, and I was traveling through Alabama and Georgia and South Carolina, and got to eat a lot of great barbecue.
Oh, that whole part of the country is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some really cool. A lot of that, I never would have been to Birmingham or Montgomery or
Mobile.
Or,
Yeah.
Or LA, as they call it, Lower Alabama.
Lower Alabama. Yeah. So we can talk about that later, because I was stationed in Panama City, Florida for like 4 years in the Air Force. So nice. We were going everywhere, mostly like Atlanta. We were going to New Orleans a lot. Mobile. That's right.
The birthplace of Mardi Gras.
There you go. Don't go on Mardi Gras. That's that was my thing. Was like the first thing I said was like, we're going to New Orleans. Should we go to Mardi Gras? And everybody went, no. Every other weekend is better than Mardi Gras was.
The chaos of Mardi Gras.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, I interrupted again.
It's a fun part of the States.
It is.
I got to experience
a lot of driving, though. My goodness.
Yeah, it was. I would definitely, which is not a bad thing, because I actually like driving, so it was a nice way I just wish they had podcasts back then, because then that's all I listen to nowadays are podcasts.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was radio, and then if you didn't get a station, it was nothing. So your CD player.
Right. Yeah, I can tell a good story about that. I just quit my job recently. So the end of, I think the 27th of April was my last day of hopefully my last job ever. We'll see. We'll see. So far, so good. I'm not precluding the fact that I might get A, bored, or B, run out of money, but
the Veer, that's where the Veer comes in, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say that. When I was really dragging my heels. So this is a story I haven't told on the show yet. So you're my guinea pig. So
Great.
I got roped into flying out for my job last November. So that would have been November 22. I had to go to Cincinnati from Las Vegas in November, which, why would you want to do that? But I had to go anyway. And while I was there, I told my boss that I was going to quit. Right? I was like, I got enough money now, I'm going to quit. And he said, okay, well, too bad. We're going to be sorry to have you go, but okay, I get it. No problem. So then I drug my heels until like March. I think someday in March, I finally got up the courage and I emailed him and I said, I am going to terminate my employment on this date, right? And he emailed me back immediately and said, I'm calling you in 5 minutes. And then we negotiated, and I ended up staying on halftime long enough for them to hire a new person. And then I actually worked with her for like two weeks before I ended up quitting. So anyway, that's
nice. I feel like that's very important, is not burning any bridges.
I never burn bridges. Never, ever. No, just it was never, sure. Especially when I have absolutely nothing to do but go home and screw around. It's like, I
if it works for...
Yeah, I knew I had to do it. It was just like it, I wasn't in a
like peeling
super
that Band-Aid off.
When I actually did it, right? When I actually sent that first email, it was like waking up from a dream. Mm-hmm. My brain literally tingled. I was like, oh, hey, I just leveled up.
You hit that send button.
I hit that send button, and there was like literally like brain chemistry tingles in my head. I was like, wow, that just happened.
I get
it. Right. So you could probably tell that story when you quit your job too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that whole region of the country is amazing.
So, and then I basically worked for Publix for 22 years, and then I got into some other commercial real estate work. I found myself more on the property management side of things, and that's where I realized that.
Wow, you got really far away from working in a grocery store.
I went from the tenant side of the relationship to the landlord side of the relationship, and property management sounds fun, but it's when you're on call 24/7 and there's so many things out of your control.
Yeah.
It's a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And then that was 2018. And that was when my friend Melissa put that post out there. And that's when podcasts and some YouTube channels, all these things in the back of my head that were like, there's some people out there doing some really cool things. And there's always that, like, why not me mentality of, I can probably for 2 or 3 years, I was following different people, and you have this idea in the back of your head of like, hey, this could be me. But it's like you were just talking about, you have to make the decision to make it happen. So I pretty much just, I was like not getting any younger. I was still single, didn't have any kids. And I was making a list of reasons why I shouldn't just go travel for 6 months. So I budgeted for 6 months. Got an Airstream trailer, which looking back at it, now I have a little camper van. I wish I would have got the camper van first, just for my style of travel. The van is so much more easier and gives you more freedom for what I'm doing.
Right.
But I did do the Airstream for a little while, and got to the point to where my 6 to 8 months of budgeted travel was coming to an end. And then that my friend had suggested that I look at employment up in Alaska, because there are like a lot of people hire seasonally in Alaska. And I had a buddy that just moved to Anchorage, so I had a place up there to live. And so I started reaching out to some different folks out there and caught wind of a website called coolworks.com.
Okay.
Which is a great website. They post, it's not spammy at all. It's very like user friendly as far as like somebody looking for a job. And then I realized that not only is there a ton of jobs in Alaska, there's a ton of jobs in Montana, California, Colorado, like all over the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Alaska was a little bit of a stretch to go up there.
It's a long drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure I wanted to go that far. My sister was living in Colorado. And I was like, well, that'd be cool to be a couple hours away from my sister and her family, and found the opportunity here at this dude ranch. And I did that for 2 summers, and now I'm back for this year. I did last summer. I took a little break and went up to Washington State and worked in the San Juan Islands for an outdoor excursion company, which was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
So beautiful areas. As much as I like Florida, the summers in Florida are just way too hot and humid for me.
Yeah.
Now time, like I pretty much like Florida for December, January, February.
Right.
Other than that, it's too hot for me.
Yeah.
So to go out and get to call Colorado and Washington State home for the summer months has been pretty fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah. Good for you. Congratulations on all of that.
And now it's been fun. You find these little jobs and they pay pretty well. I get to have met some great friends along the way.
Right.
it's not like a super long commitment. You can do it for a few months. If you like it, you can come back, kind of thing. But you still got the flexibility of going out and doing something different, you know, after a short period of time too.
So how much time are you spending on the road? Are you still traveling quite a bit, or are you just like parking and working?
Yeah, I'll be stationary. This past winter I had a like a corporate remote job.
That's good.
And so I started that when I was in Washington State, and I actually had the ability to drive to Florida, and then I went to Canada, and then back down to like Key West in Florida, and then back up to Canada. So I was
that's all
kind of traveled around. Yeah, it was a lot of driving, but it was fun. So I did a lot of Florida and the East Coast, and then part of Ontario. So I've been on the road quite a bit, and yeah, I feel like I was driving too fast, and you know, it's a lot of driving. So now I'm looking forward to these few months where I'm just stationary for a little bit. So I like the mix, you know. After a few months, I know I'm going to have the itch to get on the road again and start driving. But
I think I told you, my wife and we have been dreaming about this, right? So we both love to travel, right? But we travel like we have jobs, right? So I think what you're doing is way different. And there's a couple of different ways you can think about it. And I'm trying to convince my wife that what I want to do is what some bloggers that I've been reading, they call it just like slow travel. It's like, go find some place you really dig and then live there as cheap as you can and really get into it, you know, get into the people, you know, make friends, get into the community, and most importantly, find that really good food.
Totally. No, I'm glad you said that too, because my mother still kind of questions what I'm doing right now.
No, I get it.
But I got to blame her personally, because she retired about 2018, 2019. And I was like asking her, I was like, what are you going to do after you retire? And she had mentioned that it would be cool to live in a different state for 6 months or a year or something like that, and then just move to a new place and do that, like that slow travel you were just talking about. So that was in the back of my head too. And with CoolWorks, and there's another program, Trusted House Sitters is a subscription.
Oh, neat. Okay.
That I pay for. It's like $100 and something a year. But basically, people that have pets and don't want to board their pets will offer their home for you to stay at in exchange for you taking care of their pets or something like that, or plants, or it could be anything.
Right.
But typically it's dogs or cats. And
Have you done that yet?
Yeah, so I've done it quite a bit too.
Oh, nice.
And it's been great.
That's awesome.
And I have a dog, so even it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I guess.
I need.
They have to get along, I suppose.
Yeah. But I've had some great experiences out there. There was a house just outside of Sacramento, California, where I was there for almost 2 months. So that was a great way for me to experience California. And I wasn't, I didn't have a lease, or it was a free place for me to stay. It was a beautiful area.
Yeah.
So that's another CoolWorks and Trusted House Sitters.
My wife and I, we lived in California for probably like 13, 14 years. And don't get me wrong, California is great, but I just don't want my tax house there, if that makes any kind of sense. It's like having taxes from two countries. It's crazy.
And I know the gas is
gas is super high too. There too. Yeah. It's like $1 more than every other place. Well, more than $1 if you're on the East Coast or the Midwest. But yeah,
it was when it was spiked, and it was close to. It was like $7 or something.
It's crazy.
Out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as bad in Vegas, but it's. I think the sin tax or gas tax is less in Vegas. So like if it's $7 in the highest priced, then we're like 5 and then 4, right? There's always a variance if you shop around.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say, California is beautiful. To have the mountains on one side and the ocean on the other. Great weather.
Yeah, you can't beat California except like weather-wise. It's, it's awesome.
And I'm a sucker for In-N-Out Burger too, so I can get my In-N-Out fix while I'm out there.
There you go. I had a whole bunch of aunts, like my Aunt Cookie, and then Aunt Barb, and then cousin Kelly, cousin Debbie and cousin Sue. They all came out, I think, in 2014 and stayed in my house all at once while we were living in California in a tiny little place. And we had to take them to In-N-Out Burger. And they were unimpressed. And they didn't really like it that much. But I know why. So, like, getting in and out of In-N-Out Burger is really difficult in California. You know, just getting out fast, right? Mm-hmm. You have to, like, do the drive-through and then immediately go home. And then it's great because it's still hot, right? You can't eat it there because there's no space in the dining room, right? And then that's why they call it In-N-Out. You're supposed to leave. And there were so many of us, by the time we got it home, it was all cold, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it kind of soured the experience for them. But so if you're going to have In-N-Out, get Monster Style, double, right? That's the secret menu, Monster Style. Have you ever had that one?
Animal Style. Yeah.
Animal Style.
And the secret on top of that is you can get the little chilies they have if you ask for chopped chilies. So I do the double Animal Style with chilies, and then they chop up the little chilies on your burger.
I never got the chilies. See? I needed the traveling food dude.
I learned that one. It's just enough heat to make it a little tastier.
To be honest with you, though, that In-N-Out Burger was not my favorite burger in my California neighborhood. It was good. I mean, I went through my Animal Style phase. But I had this little place. I can't even remember what it was called, but there was like this mom and pop place that I could literally walk to from my house. I think it was called Monk's, and their double cheeseburger with bacon and fries. Oh my God.
I'm writing this down. I'm out there.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a Monk's on every corner in LA, so it doesn't really matter where you go. That was just mine. You know, they're all really good. They're just, like the greasy spoon mom and pop.
Yeah.
Yummy. Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay, so let's talk about some of the crazier places that you've visited, because I know we've both traveled. I was in the Air Force 20 years, so I've been to a lot of places that you've been. Like I've been to Mobile, Alabama. All over that region is just great. Like Atlanta, New Orleans, Lower Alabama, like all great. But like talk a little bit about like some of your favorite places to eat, like that area.
I guess it touches on this a little bit too. Another subscription I have is Harvest Host. I think a lot of RVers know of it now. They're starting to become pretty big, but I've had a subscription to them for a while. And again, it's like $100 a year or something like that. But basically, if you have a self-contained RV, it started out with like breweries and farms that had some kind of business to them. They would offer a place for you to park your RV overnight, and you're expected to spend like $20 or something at that business just to support them. So it's like
that's pretty
mutual
cheap,
exchange. Yeah. So I've done some Harvest Host days that have been pretty interesting, and nowadays there's so many different types of places that offer availability if you just spend the night. In Texas, I spent a night at a cavern. So it was like these caverns you can go down into, and it was really cool. And then like a few nights later, I was outside of El Paso, Texas, literally pretty much across the street from the border of Mexico.
Yeah.
And it was like this Mexican dairy farm, and they made fresh cheese right on site there.
Oh my God.
So I woke up. That was funny because the night I got there,
your chickens waking you up.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, there was the farm animals there too.
Yeah, that's great.
You could see it was pretty interesting just seeing it was a mix of locals, and then actually like some chefs from restaurants would come in and buy all this cheese. And then I woke up the next morning and they invited me in, and they were just working on this like warm batch of almost like it's a Mexican cheese, but like a mozzarella, fresh out of this warm water.
Oh wow!
And they gave me a sample of it. It was like the best cheese I've ever had. I think part of it was just the whole environment too.
Yeah.
Up being there. I've done a Harvest Host day in Utah, like at an old Air Force base.
Oh wow! Where in Utah?
Which was really cool.
You remember?
Right outside of the like west of Salt Lake City. I'm trying to think of that big Salt Flats area there.
Okay.
I
think that as close as I've been to Salt Lake City is Provo. So we stopped at Provo. We didn't keep going.
Right on. Yeah, just west of there. Then so it was
okay.
the old, I think Alona Gay, the airplane that housed.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That was kind of what they were known for out there. And then there was a movie that was filmed out there too. So that was kind of interesting. I'm literally sitting like sleeping in my van and I'm watching, I forget what the movie is, but the airplane that's in the movie was parked right outside of like my van. So it's always kind of cool. I was in Fargo, North Dakota one time.
Okay.
And I had to watch the movie Fargo. I would just spend a night in Philadelphia. So I had to watch like Rocky. So I'm not a big movie guy, but if I'm in a city, it's always fun just to watch a movie. That's there. Actually a weird spot. So I just did a trip up the East Coast and I spent 8 nights in New York City sleeping out of my van and didn't have a hotel room.
That's great.
And it was actually,
how hard was that? Was it tricky?
It was not hard at all, to be honest with you.
Okay. So is your van pretty stealthy as far as vans go? Or
it is. Okay. Yeah. And it's funny, you get out to New York City, there's so many like I have a 2021 ProMaster high roof van.
Okay.
And there's so many like delivery trucks out there that are Ram ProMasters too. Yeah. So I feel like I blend in pretty good. And there's so much free street parking. You just have to watch out for street sweeping hours.
Right.
But other than that, there's a lot of free parking right on the streets of New York. Like near Central Park, and then I was in the West Village or East Village, I guess. McSorley's pub was a pub that I'd go to a few times in New York, and then I realized I was parked like 2 blocks from McSorley's in this kind of like vibrant little eclectic area.
That's awesome.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
And there's Planet Fitnesses in New York City, and I have a membership. So I do that.
You get the black card.
Shower.
Yeah. Right. See, so my head has been in this van life kind of bucket for a while too. So the Planet Fitness black card thing is for people that don't know, it's like this. It's a way to have a shower wherever you go in the U.S. basically.
Yeah, and I haven't
even if you don't work out.
Canada. I know, it's funny. I was thinking about it the other day because I normally just wear my flip flops in there, and I'm like, I was like, that's probably a giveaway because I don't think a lot of people work out in their flip flops.
But they don't care.
But it works,
they don't care.
And I feel like yeah, it's worked pretty good. And I actually used it once in Canada too. I didn't know if it was going to work up there, but it did.
Okay. That's good to know.
Facilities. I was just outside of Toronto seeing some family. But I did a few nights in Toronto. I'm a Tampa Bay Rays and a Blue Jays fan. And so they played each other earlier this season.
Right.
And I paid it was $30 a day for parking a couple streets away from the Rogers Center out there. So I had a place to stay right in downtown Toronto for a few days, and I got to go to the St. Lawrence Market, which is one of my favorite foodie destinations in the entire world. I love the St. Lawrence Market in Toronto, and New York City was it's funny just walking around, and then I can go back to the van.
So what's your favorite food, say like in New York City, that you got when you were hanging out? So many good things to eat. I
know there is. I got a long list, but I would say the one thing that if I went to New York and didn't get, I'd be pretty upset about it. And I'm not a big bagel person, but there's a bakery in Brooklyn called Peter Pan.
Okay.
And they're known for donuts and bagels, I guess, but they have something they call a flagel. So it's like a flat bagel.
Okay.
And they do a house like chive cream cheese. So these bagels are, to me, the outside's the best part. So it's like less doughy.
Okay.
And you get more surface area, more room for cream cheese. But these flagels they have at Peter Pan Bakery in Brooklyn are probably my number one go-to. And then I always like going to a steakhouse. I've been to Peter Luger, an Old Homestead. I'll try to do like one fancy steakhouse dinner in New York.
Okay.
Get that classic experience. Try different pizza places.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Jewish delis.
So what's your favorite pizza? If you were going to pick a favorite nationwide, do you have one, or do you just enjoy whatever pizza's there?
Food,
Yeah.
Chicago's
different.
There is a pizza place in Chicago called Pequod's Pizza, and it's my favorite Chicago because they have like a caramelized crust on it. So it's
wow.
I'm not a big Chicago fan, but I do love Pequod's Pizza. I would say just a classic pepperoni New York slice is always good.
Okay.
Detroit style nowadays.
Detroit style. So describe Detroit style, because somebody from Detroit tried to describe Detroit style pizza to me.
So it's funny. We're actually for lunch today at the ranch. I bought some Detroit style pizza pans. For our, one of the days we do like a snack kind of lunch in the afternoon.
Okay.
So we're gonna test that out today with the staff. So we had these Detroit style pizza pans. Which is another, not to get off on a tangent, a quirky thing I did is I got invited to the International Pizza Expo in Los Vegas a few years ago.
Okay.
Some of the best pizza I've ever had in my life. Like, it was amazing. It was this huge expo.
Now I want to go.
Yeah.
That means I can get pizza from everywhere, and it's in Vegas. That would be awesome.
Yeah, they have all the like pizza oven companies are out there, the flour companies, cheese companies, a lot of Italian companies and chefs and stuff out there.
It's like you want to have 5 stomachs. Yeah,
exactly. It was interesting. The day I was there, CBS Sunday Morning was out there filming. They did a story on the Pizza Expo, and you can see me like behind the scenes in a couple of their clips. One of the things they do out there too is a pizza dough throwing competition.
Okay. Oh,
so
that sounds fun.
They actually have like a competition that's pretty like this freestyle pizza dough tossing competition. But that's where I really got the behind the scenes on the Detroit style pizza.
Right. Okay.
And bought the pans to use here at the ranch. It's all about the caramelized, crispy, cheesy crust to me. You know, the dough could be super airy and light, but you get that crispy, cheesy crust.
So it's like caramelized cheese on the bottom and the edges.
It almost looks burnt. Yeah, but
okay. No, I get it.
It's just a good like char.
Where I grew up in Michigan and Wisconsin, they have this style of pizza that is called tavern style. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you, I've got my cousin Kelly, her husband John grew up, I want to say in Pennsylvania. He does not like the pizza in our area, right? We go, oh, you got to try our pizza. It's the best, right? So pizza is super regional, right? And you kind of just like your pizza style until you start having everybody's, and then you're like, oh, they're all awesome, right? Yeah.
But it's funny how something so simple can be so different too. There's something in like St. Louis, I think too, that they use a certain kind of cheese out there. I think it's almost like a processed cheese or something.
Yeah.
So there's like a St. Louis style pizza and all this. Yeah.
When I was a kid, a friend's family took me to this pizza place, and I don't even remember where the hell I was, right? But it was the weirdest pizza I ever had in my life. It was really good, but like it just sort of opened my mind to the idea that pizza can be, it's whatever the person making it says it is.
It's like,
it was super airy, super, super thin. And the pieces were like postage stamps. They were like 1 inch, like 1 bite. Huh. I know. I was just like, now I have no idea where that is. I'm going to have to go ask them. What the hell was that?
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. It was neat. So anyway.
Another, I'm thinking back to like when I first started my journey, I was invited to the Albuquerque International Hot Air Balloon Fiesta. That was always a bucket list item of mine. And I got to go up in a hot air balloon with a family and some friends that were based out of Belgium.
Oh, wow.
The Princess Nelly was the name of the hot air balloon. It's a big pink elephant balloon.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And I get to, as I'm traveling around, just like one of the very cool parts or experiences that I'm getting is to meet these people that have these passions. Because I never really knew what my passion in life was. And that was part of me deciding to go out and do this whole traveling, is just to be exposed to some different things that I never would have before.
I get it.
But shout out to the Princess Nelly group out of Belgium. They take this hot air balloon all around the world.
Wow.
And it's pretty, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort to transport the balloon, set it up,
the logistics,
pack it back in, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I had a great time out there, and I got to. One of my favorite things in New Mexico is like green chili.
Green or red. That's what they always ask you. Green or red,
or you could do Christmas. Yeah, we get a little bit of both.
Right.
I don't know what made me think of New Mexico, but yeah, as we were just talking about pizza, I guess I was thinking about green chilies, and one of my, and even here in Colorado, green chilies are pretty. You see it a lot more in New Mexico and Colorado than anywhere else, like a hatch green chili, and I love anything with that on it. So that's a really cool regional thing, I feel like.
Yeah, I had a buddy who lived in Albuquerque. And I think that was like the first thing he said to me when I showed up, and he was going to take me out to eat. He's like, red or green? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a very Southwest thing now. Yeah. I get it now. Yeah. But it was,
There's a variation of their license plate that has a red and a green chili pepper on it too. So I think is one of the coolest license plates out there.
So I'm definitely Christmas because I like both.
Yeah. I like that. Best of both worlds.
Well, I'm one of these people that like when I was a kid and people would say, what's your favorite whatever? I didn't know. I said, I don't know. They're all good, right? And it seemed like everybody wanted me to have a favorite everything, right?
Yeah.
So I just started making up favorites to fit in.
There you go.
So I stopped now. I just say, I like, when somebody says to me, like, do you want this, or that? I would say yes.
And I get asked a lot too, like, what's
your favorite
best?
X? Yes.
I hate the word best for whatever reason. I feel like I hate to categorize something as the best, where I feel like there's a lot of good stuff out there. It just depends on your mood and where you are and that kind of stuff. I feel like the best question to ask me is like, would you get it again?
Yes. What do you, when you go back to New York, what do you have to have? Right? Yeah.
And there's definitely things out there that I wouldn't get again, kind of thing. But
like there was a place in Narlands. I think it was on not Bourbon Street. What's the street that runs perpendicular to Bourbon Street? With the horse thing, where it's like a big boulevard with trees, and I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, that's where we always stayed, on that street. So it was like probably like 3 blocks away from Bourbon Street. There was a Cajun restaurant, and my wife and I just fell in love with this. The first time we went there, we got the Cajun combo, and it had everything Cajun, right? It had the blackened catfish. It had like fried catfish. It had gumbo. It had it's just like everything. Everything you want, right? All on one plate. I know.
There's so much.
Yeah, and it's just like, and then you have to go get the bidet, right? You got to go to and then you got to get that particular coffee at that particular cafe, right? Yeah, it's just it's.
And then even
stops.
like Louisiana's known for like truck stop food in the sense that they do the boudin balls and cracklins, and like if you go to any kind of like rest area or gas station off the interstate in Louisiana, like, and check out their hot section. There's so much like fried Cajun, like crawfish pies and all this kind of stuff that you can get at like gas stations in Louisiana. Right. It's like a whole subculture of its own.
Yeah. And you learn what suck the heads means. It's not even about porn at all.
I was out there for Easter one year and just drove on the outskirts of town, and I randomly ended up at this park, and there was all these families that set up, and they were all doing some kind of crawfish boil for Easter Sunday out at this park, and it was just a really cool experience too.
I had a buddy that when I was in, again, I told you I was at Panama City at Tyndall Air Force Base. And there was this guy, and, didn't have much of a job. He's getting kind of like close to retiring, but when it came time for us to do like the shop barbecue, he was the guy, right? Oh my goodness, this guy. Oh, I don't know where he was from. I don't even remember his name, but this guy, he could just take a bag of charcoal, right? Ordinary stuff. And then it was like magic when you were done.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was like the meat just through the roof, everything that he made. I think it was some sort of pork. I don't think it was ribs. It might've been like pork steak or pork loin. That was just amazing, barbecue. But this thing that I just really remember was this thing that was like, I can't remember what he called it, but it kind of had like sort of like that Cajun sausage, watercress, and then like it was just this amazing combination of just good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I love
those. Are the best things too. I was driving from LA to San Jose a few years ago, and I just a beautiful.
That's a long drive. Okay.
Yeah, it was a couple days we did it in.
All right.
And Rincon Point was an area. It was just happened to be like I was like not too far out of LA on the north, and as I'm driving north, I was like, I need to just pull over randomly at one of these exits and take in the view. So I pulled over, and it ended up being Rincon Point, which is known for, which I learned to find out is a very popular surfer destination. Like a lot of hardcore surfers will surf there. So me and my dog are walking down this little path to get to the beach. And you're talking about charcoal. It reminded me of this story because I could smell this like charcoal burning. I'm like, what is going on down here? So I get down there.
Yeah.
And there's a little tiki hut tucked away in the corner of the beach.
Oh wow!
And it's not very touristy there at all. And I'm like just literally following my nose, and there's a little sign that said barbecue surfers, and it's this group, and they were just in their bathing suits, like tops off and everything, all sunburnt and drinking a Corona, and they were grilling out.
Now those are dudes.
And there's a little group called the Barbecue Surfers, and they just go down there and they barbecue and they surf, and they're like,
I love it.
And
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I exchanged numbers with the guy, and the next time I drove by, I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, come by. So they invited. So I've been there like twice to hang out with them for a couple hours now. Super cool experience though.
How was the food?
Great. Yeah. And they were making some, and you were talking about like, it wasn't even like, it was just
nothing
whatever
fancy.
they had in the fridge.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
there's something about cooking outside. Yeah. Cooking outside, when I grew up in Michigan, we would have nothing special food when we were camping with my family, just chicken on the grill, but it was amazing. Right. Yeah. There's something about cooking and eating and outside that makes everything better. I think your brain's already happy.
Yeah.
Right. But I was going to say one more travel experience because we're getting close to wrapping up here. So I know we're rambling, but I'm having a blast. So you should come back.
Getting hungry.
I am getting hungry. I already ate. But this, so when I was stationed in Japan, right, and my wife is from Japan, so shortcut this a little bit. We needed to get out of town because of the air show, right? And then we had this one requirement where we had to get up early on Saturday and do this thing. And then we headed out of town, right? We just packed up the car and the tent and all the camping gear. And I'm trusting that my wife is being Japanese. She can figure that out, right? On the way. So she had maps and tour guide books. But we got a later start than we wanted to. So by the time we got to where we were looking for the campground, it was already dark. So we find this place, we set up camp, and it's like in a valley. So at the bottom of a mountain, right? Didn't even know that it was dark, right? So we set up the camp, and all night we're in this, this is the first time I ever slept in a tent in the middle of a windstorm at the bottom of a mountain. So that's a challenge in Japan. Yeah. So, not a very good night of sleep because I thought I kept getting up and restaking the tent thinking it was going to blow away. But when we woke up, the point of the story, when we woke up, we both smelled this amazing smell. That was a mix of Japanese charcoal and something we couldn't identify. And it turns out that we had camped and there was a big bike race going on coming down the mountain, right? Yeah. And they were cooking clams and oysters on the grill. And we had clams and oysters on the grill, and it was amazing.
For breakfast.
Well, it was by the time we got up there, I think it was probably closer to lunch.
Gotcha.
But yeah, still.
Those are great experiences, though.
Yeah, right? Yes. That spontaneous, that spontaneous, let's just get out of here. Yeah.
And waking up and not knowing that it was going to happen. Or what, trying to figure out what was happening.
It's like what makes life cool. Those and that's what you kind of designed your work life now around that, sort of like you made it so that can happen on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Thank
so
you
congratulations on that.
What a time to be alive. I know somebody else would always say that, like, what a time to be alive. Like,
so true.
I don't think I would have done this 10, 15 years ago, but nowadays to be connected and have the
and you've
internet
got
around and cell
you've got
phones
Starlink.
Around,
So thanks Starlink, right?
Thank you, Starlink, for
it'll get cheaper. It will get cheaper. Today. Yes.
Yeah, and you could lower your price instead of jack it up.
Right. Yes. Well, it will get cheaper. Everything it starts expensive, and so all things that are cheap are subsidized by rich people. So theoretically,
I was saying earlier that the nice part is like, I just had it on pause for 4 or 5 months, or whatever.
Right.
But now that I'm in the middle of nowhere, it's time to turn it back on again.
So how can people best get in touch with traveling food dude Adam Vosding?
Yeah, and one of my things is like, much as I'm out here traveling, I like to consider this whole thing like our journey, and like everybody that is following along.
You
love to get ideas
Holland
from them.
The pup, right?
Yeah, and my dog Holland. So we each have our own social media. Mine is just at Traveling Food Dude, and that's traveling with 1 L. My dog has her own. She's kind of morphed into her own little star along the way. She just finished
That's great.
visiting every NHL arena, the first dog to do that.
Wow.
When we were in New York, we visited our last two. We were actually on the radio in New York, and then we got invited to the NHL Network studio when we were out there.
My goodness.
So we got a behind the scenes tour, and then we were on TV on the NHL Network for a little bit.
Oh, that's great.
Her name is Holland. You can follow her at Holland the Pup, and she's got her own TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. We both have YouTube channels. We're getting up and running. Got a lot of content. We were talking about this earlier. The biggest challenge on the road is finding the time to not be distracted by all the cool things around you and actually get some work done. So I got a lot of video editing to do in my future this summer on my off time while I'm stationary here, but hopefully get our YouTube channels going again. But
you are working full time, so take it easy.
And then some, yeah. A little overtime in there too, but it helps pay the bills until I can get monetized on YouTube. Yeah, hopefully one day. But Traveling Food Dude and Holland the Pup.
This has been great, Adam. I've had a blast. I know you've got to go get lunch service ready for staff lunch.
Pizza Day, come on by. Marshall, Colorado, if anybody's around.
You're living my dream, dude.
I think we're doing ribs and salmon for dinner tonight. So
oh, my goodness. Wow. Now I have to think of a reason. I have to convince my wife to go to Partial, Colorado.
Steamboat's close, yeah.
It's kind of close, but she doesn't like being out in the middle of nowhere for a week at a time. She likes being like shopping close. So, yeah. But maybe I can sell it on her. You never know.
The nearest Target's probably a couple hours away. So
oh, yeah, that's gonna be rough. All right, brother. This has been a blast. You have a good one.
Thanks so much. Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks, everybody.
All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.